Okay, so before you actually begin your project, you're going to want to review your notes and organize them a little bit, because what you should have is at least 3 pages, 1, 2, 3 of notes from at least 3 different sources. Maybe you have more than 3 pages as well. So when you do your project, your goal isn't just to like list all these bullet points, all these details. You want to organize them and group them in a way that makes sense. So for example, if you are creating a thing link, or if you're creating Google Slides, or even a poster, each tag of your thing link, or each slide of your Google slide, or each little section of your poster, or each page of your book you create should have details that you have learned grouped together that makes sense to be grouped together, right? So for example, when you review your notes, we'll come back to this in a second, here would be some examples of things that might make sense. So if you are researching Inca food, one thing you probably learned is they ate a lot of potatoes, right? And so you might have found some details about all the different kinds of potatoes they ate from this resource, and you might have found details about potatoes from this resource, and maybe or maybe not from this third one. What you're going to want to do is group all those details about potatoes together, probably into one slide or into one tag on your thing link or one page of your book, okay? So you're going to have details on the same kind of big idea or subtopic on different pages of your notes, and you need to go through and figure that out. So here would be some examples of big ideas you might have found, and these are ways to group all your different bullet points, all your different details. So I don't know, I'm just kind of guessing here, but if you are researching Inca food, you might have, you're doing a slideshow, you might have one slide about all the different kinds of potatoes. You might have a different slide about terrace farming. That was hugely important for the Inca. Remember those big stair steps they made out of the mountainous land so they could grow food. You might have a different slide or a different page of your book or part of your poster about the Colcas, where they stored their food. Maybe you have another slide about some of the different proteins, some of the meats they ate. And maybe you have a slide about the availability, how available or not available food was in the Inca Empire. So you would look over all your research notes and kind of find those common themes, those common big ideas. Let's look at a couple other examples. For Aztec war and weaponry, you might have a section about the different types of weapons. Or there might be 1 or 2 really special weapons that you have a lot of information about, and you might have one slide about a specific type of weapon, or 2 separate slides about specific types of weapons. You might have a different part of your project that is about training for warriors, or who the warriors were. Maybe you have a section about the different lands or tribes they conquered. And maybe you have a section about the tribute that the conquered lands were expected to pay. And then finally, another example, if you're doing the arts, maybe you have a section on all the different types of arts for your culture. Maybe there's a part about pottery, and you have some details about gold and silver. You have a section about music and dance. You have a section about poetry. But how might you group up your details, your bullet points? Okay, so the details that you, or the number of groupings you do, will just depend on your topic and your sources. So actually, we'll go back to here real quick. So let me show you a couple of ways to categorize or group your notes. So here's some ideas. One is to use that left column I gave you to list big ideas. So in the left column, when you have details about potatoes, over here in the left column, you might say like potatoes, or down here, this one is about terrace farming. But you've looked through, you've identified kind of your big ideas, and then the details that go with those big ideas, you would just note that here in the left-hand column. Or some people like to color code. You can use a highlighter or some kind of markers to highlight or underline details that go together. So all of the information about the training for warriors would be highlighted yellow, and the different types of weapons would be highlighted green. And then when you put your project together, all your green bullet points get grouped together, and all your yellow bullet points get grouped together. One other tip is that as you're doing your project, once you've used a bullet point or detail, you can check it off as you go, so you know that that one's already been used. Okay, so that's a lot, but this is a fairly small research project, but as you get into bigger research projects, you definitely want some strategies for, okay, I've got all these notes. How do I now group them and organize them in a way that makes sense? So this is just a really small way to start. So think about using this left-hand column to either put little color code over here on the left or big ideas, whatever system kind of makes sense to you. And before you start your project, read over all of these. If you want to get a 7 or 8, you definitely need to have your details grouped together in a way that makes sense. If you do a poster with one long list of bullet points, that's not going to get you up into that 7-8 category for sure. Okay, good luck. And if you need help, I will help you when I am back.